gotta look at this. That's a nice view there, isn't it?
Fantastic spot, isn't it? Actually, this whole path, the South Downs Way, is an absolutely phenomenal track across the south of England. It takes us all the way down to take you all the way past Brighton, right the way down to Hove and all down there. And it starts off, I think, in Winchester, where we're heading for now, and it goes all the way. You can do the whole thing actually. With the Gurkhas. The Gurkhas do a special 2-day event where you walk all day, all night, and all the next day.
Ah, that doesn't sound for me.
So you fancy a little walk sometime?
I'll follow them up with the car. We'll see at the pub, okay?
Well, actually, you could do that. I've always fancied doing it, actually. But it is a walk. We can walk all the way to my house. Yeah, you can walk all the way home. You walked from Winchester, and we took this path back to my place.
Why did we take the car? Could have just walked with all the gear.
And I took some shots here on this spot, I remember, for that book opening to the other side, the illustrations in there about dowsing. This is on a ley line here.
We've got enough here. So, where are we going today?
Well, we're going to go to St Catherine's Hill. That's near Winchester. We're heading towards it now along a ley line. And this is supposed to be one of the places that Aleister Crowley used to do some of his rituals and things like that. So it's an interesting place. A good place to talk about Aleister Crowley.
Where are we now at the moment?
We're at an area called Cheesefoot Hill, that's just behind us. And actually nearby there was a big area that was important in D-Day, where Eisenhower addressed the troops, because it's a natural auditorium there. So this is just a branch off the South Downs Way we're along now.
That's going to be a nice, interesting talk about Crowley actually today.
Yeah, lovely day to talk about Crowley. We should have come up here at night, actually. That's the time to do it.
We might try later.
Yeah, could do. St Catherine's Hill was the place that Aleister Crowley did his some of his rituals, or so I'm told. And we're going to see up there what's called a Mizmaz, which is a maze made out of turf. And these date back centuries, and were one of the special sites that were supposed to be full of earth energy and magic.
Somebody's hot.
I'm going to take the jacket off. I know I'm going to get hot. Yeah, so I've always found this place a really spooky place along here, you know, because it's there is. I mean, I've been up here. I've been coming up here in a lovely, beautiful day like this. But we used to come up here at night time, and I remember coming up here once, and we were just going up the hill like this, and we were talking about aliens and things like that. And all along the edge of the hill, suddenly we saw these sort of like aliens, you know, sort of pointy ears. Yeah, and but the aliens turned out to be rabbits, you know. Scared the living daylights out.
Oh, that's a pretty steep hill.
There we go. Hope we're on the right path. I've not approached it from this way before. You normally got the nice easy steps.
It doesn't look like easy steps.
No. Yeah, actually what we did in reality. And once you're at the top, it's all over.
Bloody hell. See? Working in IT is no good.
No. I mean, we used to do these walks, and we'd near run up these bloody hills where we'd walk so much. It's not so easy nowadays, though. Yeah. I think this is the steep, ruthless route.
Oh. Up there?
Well, that's the quickest way, or there's that way.
Take the slow way. Oh.
Some steep inclines are pretty hard going. That little church over there, I can't remember the name of it, but they give walkers 3 cups of tea and cakes. Or a biscuit. Biscuit and tea, I think they give you. It's part of the old traditions of Winchester. More.
If you decide to come here for a visit, prepare psychologically and physically. A couple of hours of walk every day, because that's going to break your legs.
Come on,
Going up now.
It's easy.
Let's go up the hill. This bloody hill.
I think we need to run up.
Craig, I don't want to take you to the hospital. I'd like to finish the filming today.
I do a lot of walking though, so I'm alright. I always suggest a visualization for times like this. Imagine yourself in one of those iron diving suits, right? So that every... it's heavy, yeah? It helps you overcome trauma that way.
At least there is a nice view here. And again up the hill.
Actually, this is the wrong side. We've got to go back down again and up that side. It'd be better. All right, we're good. So they got that. I got a feeling the Mizmaz up the top there. There's a sort of circle of trees at the top, and the old maze is somewhere close to the circle of trees. So I'm afraid it's a bit more uphill, but I think we can get up there that way. You all right? Or we want to just wander around?
Just keep going.
You want to take it slower?
They're almost there.
Yeah. Now do that visualization. Imagine yourself carrying a heavy weight. There must be an easier route.
Hello.
Hello.
I reckon there's an easier route up here. There's definitely an easier route up here. I've taken Domenico up the hard route.
And of course we had to do the hard route. Yeah. There's an easy one somewhere, but
I mean, unless those horses came up the same way we did.
Are we making like a comedy show? Something like that? As a typical sketch. Oh, there is an easy way, but I just want to test you.
But it is St. Catherine's Hill, and it's kind of quite a biggish hill.
Let's put on YouTube about the hill, not about the easy way to get on the hill. So people might come and visit it. Huh?
Yeah. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're going to do a talk today about Aleister Crowley.
That's quite an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah,
he's
he's
one of the most famous occultists.
Pretty strange bloke.
History, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a bit of an unusual one for us today, but we just come here to St. Catherine's Hill near Winchester.
That's a long way up a hill.
Yeah, and we've also been along a ley line to get here, because this is at a very powerful ley line, one of the main ley lines in Britain, cross here at St. Catherine's. So it was a very powerful place. Would have been perfect for any magician. I know lots of people still come up here actually in the night time and do stuff.
Or even during the daytime by the look of it today.
Yeah. So so we're going to have a look around St. Catherine and look at some of the points where Crowley would have worked, and other black magicians apparently work up here even to this day. I know a group that come up here sometimes. And so what do we know about Crowley then? He wasn't called Aleister Crowley originally, was he? It was...
No, actually originally his name was Edward.
Edward. It doesn't quite have the same ring, does it? Ed, you know? Teddy. You know?
Well, again.
And he changed it, didn't he?
He changed when he went one of his first trips to Sweden, where he had the vision.
Yeah.
And he changed it to Aleister.
That's right, and that was what his first of many epiphanies, wasn't it? Because he also had the change in Egypt, where he met his spirit guide, as it were, an evil fella. So we can talk about that later on in the video.
And even all his trip he has done.
Yeah.
He loved to travel everywhere.
And he loved to shock.
Oh, that's for sure. You can see from the history.
And he was really into some strange sexual stuff too, over at the maze over there.
Sex and drug. The maze was one of the places he had some encounter, let's say.
Yeah. So
we will see about the maze later.
Yeah, we'll take people to show you the Mizmaz as a sort of a labyrinth that's there. It's a fascinating thing.
And he was interested even in drugs and experiments.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, what we're going to talk about today, because I was thinking I'd like to get behind the man himself, you know. I mean, can I pick up anything about him? Possibly. I'm not so sure you can from a place like this, but maybe we'll pick up a sense of him. And I think you do kind of get a feeling, but I want to sort of think about the psychology of the man. You know, what made him like he was, you know? Is there something psychological behind it? Something from a past life or something that's motivating him?
His mother.
His mother. Yeah.
Person that hated him.
Yeah.
Called him the Great Beast.
Yeah, that's right. And his influence with his father too.
And I'm actually curious to know who he actually was in the real life. You know, I'm not a hard believer of these things. I'm more on the skeptical side of the line. And Crowley was actually known even to be in contact with the secret services.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And people think that he actually was all the time part of the secret services, and that he was using this cover of the occultism of his cult and the people following him as a cover for his job at the secret services.
Well, shall we go and see if we can find out some of his secrets now then?
Let's have a walk.
And I'd like to know a little bit more about that with the secret services. That would be quite interesting. So we're going to go over and have a look at the Mizmaz over there, just behind
the famous
us.
maze you were telling me about.
It's a Mizmaz, which means it's made out of turf. Right.
I was expecting a proper maze.
So don't expect Jabberwockies and sundials in the middle and all the rest of it. They're really ancient. Some of those mazes go way back through human history. I mean, the earliest I know of is the one that was supposed to be at Knossos. Which was the Minotaur, where Theseus went in with the golden thread to see the Minotaur in the middle, you know, and that maze was commissioned by Minos after being told by at Delphi, you know, the Oracle of
The
Delphi.
Oracle of Delphi, yes.
Which another thing I'm really interested in. And Jane and I are actually going to Delphi later next year.
Oh.
So we'll do some footage and something on the channel about that. But yeah, anyway, this idea of the maze, I find it a really fascinating concept. That it's like going into the depths of the unconscious mind, isn't it? Where there's something fearful there, something terrifying, you know? And it's a labyrinth, I suppose you would call this.
Well, you know, the labyrinth or maze, they were seen as a way for the soul to go through specific paths.
Yes.
To get to a specific fear.
Yeah.
To a point in
it's
their
another.
life.
It's a kind of a journey, isn't it? Because it's a journey that goes in on itself. It's an inward journey into the unconscious mind.
And you need to find the right way to get to the center.
Yeah.
Or to get out of it.
So this one, I mean, I know a number of occultists. I don't know them so well nowadays, but I knew a number that used to come up here and do their rites up at this spot. And the maze was always considered a fertility spot. So I don't know what they got up to. But they said to me, this is where Crowley used to do this.
Well, if it was about fertility, it was about sex.
So what do we know about Crowley and his sexual preferences?
Well, you know that he was bisexual. And knowing that the parents were heavily Christian,
yeah,
he was going completely against his parents' beliefs. And he loved actually to mix even drugs with sex.
Yeah.
And these were his own way of perform rituals.
So goodness knows what he got up to here.
Well, he had fun with male, female,
yeah,
with no distinction.
And with all the
together.
use of hallucinogenics. At this place too, which at night time, I've been up here late at night.
Might be pretty scary here.
It's a pretty spooky place. And you get all the view of the city around the outside. But then it would have been very dark here at that time and very much undisturbed. And the perfect place to indulge in his
rituals. I'd say rituals. You know, he had his own cult.
Yeah.
Although we don't know why he had it.
I mean, large part of what he was doing was a lot of it was shock. You know, he tried to. He tried to shock people into. What was he trying? Why was he trying to do it? A lot of it was a bit look at me, wasn't it? Really.
Some of it was look at me, but some of it was even trying to hide.
But there's always been this strong connection between sex and magic. I mean,
you know that he wrote even different books. He was a poet and he was a writer.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about erotica.
I remember. Yeah.
It has even been defined the worst book about erotica
ever
in
written.
entire English language.
Pornography in his time, you know, would have been a real shocker.
We will let you know. We will put on the screen which is the book.
Yeah,
then it's up to you if you want to
buy it. Yeah, so there's all that, wasn't there? And he was, but
because of his interest in erotica and sexuality, he became part of another secretive group.
Yeah, he became part of the Golden Dawn. I mean, who weren't really that bad. They weren't. I mean, Bram Stoker was part of the Golden Dawn, and W.B. Yeats, the poet from Ireland, was part of the Golden Dawn. So it was a sanitized magicians,
yes.
But he formed his own far worse cults. I mean, I was very interested in the fact that he went to India. Because he got involved and interested in the left-hand path, as they call it, of the tantric left-hand path. That's the dark path, you know.
Yeah, that's
and I saw one of these guys in India, this yogi who lived under the
aren't they called in a different way?
Agora yoga. He was. I mean, he was walking past in Varanasi, and I'll pass this funeral pyre, and there's there's this red-eyed, strange-looking man in the ashes, and these guys eat cannibals. And they'll eat feces and human corpses and all this. But this guy, I was walking by, and it kind of caught me by surprise because he caught my eye and looked at me with a look that I've never seen anything in all my days like that. I actually staggered backwards when he looked at me, you know, and it was terrifying. He actually appeared to me once in my room at home.
That might have been frightening.
But he was like, I tell you, he was the one real black magician that I've seen in life, because he definitely had the power. So, you know, and they're very into this idea of the Kundalini, but releasing it in a negative sort of way. Well, not the Agora so much, but the Crowley was. He would use any form to release the Kundalini, particularly sexual activity. And
Didn't
I
you
won't
talk about the
describe what he
Kundalini in
planned.
an old
Sorry?
video? Didn't you talk about the Kundalini about another in your old
There's
video?
on some of the other videos on this channel. I mean, I talk about Kriya Yoga and things like that a lot here.
We'll put the link
Yeah.
on top.
But there's a lot of he was using it in a negative way, and the idea, this is often the case that some people that are mediums and psychics often have a very, very high sexuality, which I think is sometimes part of the stimulation of the Kundalini itself. But that's another story. But definitely that was part of the idea what Crowley was into, that you trigger higher states of consciousness through those sort of techniques and the shortcuts such as the use of drugs.
Well, you know that Crowley had his ideas and his beliefs were built actually on his experiences traveling around the world.
Yeah.
He hasn't been just in India and Sweden, but he's been in a lot of other places. And I think we can go down to the river, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, sure. We'll have a look down there. Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Wow, that was a long walk, wasn't it?
I'm exhausted, actually.
You don't want to use to that?
I don't want to talk anymore.
Well, we have done a little trip by ourselves today.
Yeah, it's been quite something.
And you know that Crowley has done a lot of trips.
Yeah, he went
He's
all
been
over
traveling
the place.
around the world, especially in the first 20 years of his life.
I'm absolutely amazed for, traveling around in the 1920s to be able to go to, where did he go? He went to Mexico, America, Japan.
He went to India.
All over Europe, Berlin, India.
And whilst traveling
Ceylon.
in these places, he was speaking up with the local religions.
Yeah, yeah.
And
researching and developing what he learned at the Golden Dawn and incorporating all the new ideas. I mean, a very creative man to be able to pull all that together.
But then he went to one of the most important of his trips and was in Egypt.
Absolutely. Egypt is where the spirit guide, Awas, wasn't it? Awas was his spirit, kind of spirit guide.
It's the Egyptian spirit that dictated him.
An evil spirit, really.
The law of Thelema. Thelema.
Yeah. And that became the basis.
Sorry if we pronounce it wrongly.
I think it's Thelema, isn't it? Thelema. But his whole concept behind that was about the free will, really.
But that's because Thelema
shall be the only law,
But because Thelema comes from an ancient Greek word, it's an ancient Greek word that means will.
Yeah, yeah.
Because his religion, it was based on the will.
But it was kind of selfish will.
It wasn't the will that you would think would be the nice one, about do the things you want in the respect of love.
No,
it was
a reaction against Christianity. That's what, like in politics, he liked Nazism, and he also liked communism because both of them rejected Christianity.
That's correct-ish, but yeah, it wasn't actually really from a far left or far right person. It was
anti-Christian.
Yes, anti-religion in general.
His parents through that. Really.
It could have been anti his parents.
I think that's what his psychology was.
The interesting thing is that after he wrote this, in the first 20 years, these tracts about the law of Thelema, he went to Sicily in the 1920s.
Yeah. Now that interests you, being Italian, of course.
And
what was the name of that town?
Cefalù.
Cefalù.
A Sicilian town in which he created his object.
Yeah.
And he didn't create it by himself. He created it with the help of another woman that he was in love with, actually.
Yeah. And it was an abbey, wasn't it?
It was an
church.
abbey.
He went there after Paris, I think.
And this 1 year after he created it, he then decided to start and sex and drugs as a ritual. But it wasn't like common drugs you would think about today. We're talking about opium. We're talking about even animal blood.
Yeah.
And because of this, one person during a ritual died. It was 1923, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And it seems that he died because he drank blood of a cat.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that. I mean, he had a lot of competition at the time when you think about it. There was the mysticism had people like Gurdjieff on the rise, Ouspensky. There would have been Rudolf Steiner, Madame Blavatsky.
Mysticism was everywhere around the world at the time. It was booming. It was something interesting and new. But the thing
You
is
wouldn't
that
have
it
thought
wasn't.
so to look at the society, though.
No,
would
because
you?
it wasn't done in the daylight. It was
No.
done behind closed doors.
And it was done politically with the Nazis, with the Nazi occultism and things. I mean,
Well, Hitler was
No.
a huge believer of
Yeah.
occultism,
I mean,
and
what
magic.
what a weird thing going on. We talk about the Illuminati and things nowadays. You only need to look back to recent history there, and there's all sorts of weird stuff going on in the background. Crowley is the perfect representation of it.
But the interesting thing is that Crowley has been a figure that still today
Yeah,
is
he's on
highly
the front of,
viewed.
He's on the front of Sergeant Pepper's, isn't he? John Lennon
Is
put
he?
him on there. Yeah,
He is. Plus, he was in the list of the 100 most influential British people
yeah.
made by
indeed.
BBC.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And he's
after
still
everything he
popular.
has done, he became really, really popular. And you
Yeah.
question how and why.
Yeah, and what he appeals to something in people, doesn't he? I think he appeals to the nonconformist side of ourselves. I think what's behind this guy. He kicked out against the ordinariness of the world, didn't he? About ordinary people, ordinary things. He hated the banality of the world. This is why I think he appeals to people.
He hated the ordinary life, actually. He actually enjoyed going against ordinarity. There was a quote that always hit me from Crowley that says, "Ordinary morality is for ordinary people." And it's like, it makes you think.
Yeah,
Makes
I've
you
not
think
heard
like,
that one before. That's an interesting concept.
yeah,
Even more challenging than his idea "do as thou wilt," isn't it? I
Mhm.
mean, really, he transported people into perhaps a bit of a fantasy world. I mean, we still see this on television with
Yes.
the way people love the fantasy of, the most haunted type of things. They rather have that than reality. And I think he played often into people's fantasy, didn't he?
and there is then the question that comes at the end of all this. That is, who you think Crowley was really in his life,
As
and
a person.
what brought him to
Yeah.
become that.
Well, my feeling, I think everything in his psychology was all about his childhood. If you look at it all, it goes back to the hatred of his mother, the love of his father, who died suddenly and then suddenly couldn't, was shut up almost by the devil with his cancer, And it's a reaction, I think, a reaction against his childhood, reaction against those Plymouth Brethren, who have a lot to answer for there. Without the Plymouth Brethren, there would be no Crowley.
Well, I think it could have been that. It could have been his personal fight against the common life, the religion, the rules, the
Yeah.
common daily rules.
Yeah. Well, most of it's against religion, isn't it? Really? I mean, even his political views were against religion. Nazism is good because it's anti-Christian. Communism is good because it's anti-Christian. Is anything that's anti-Christian is his motivation.
Or he could really have a head, some magical power.
And well, I think he could. I mean, as I've mentioned earlier, with those siddhars in India and the Agori yogis, they have power. They have power, most certainly. And I'm sure what he did, I mean, these things motivated him, and he did tap into real energy. I'm not denying the fact that what he did was a real thing.
What do you people think?
Yeah, what do you think? Let's have some comments about this. I mean, we've asked a lot of questions here.
What do you think was the reason that brought Crowley to become what he was?
He was a strange man. So leave your comments, and don't forget to follow the channel, because if you follow this channel, you'll get updates every time we put one of these interesting videos up.
Click subscribe.
And we'll
Here.
see you all soon. So bye for now.
Bye, everybody.